let us get started with the actual text and look how Weber is constructing his argument here. So he's starting us off first by defining what is power for us. If you want to read that with me in the text, that is on the first page of this section on page 167. He writes, in general, we understand by power the chance of a man or a number of men to realize their own will in a social action, even against the resistance of others who are participating in the action. So here you already see the difference to his concept of authority, which requires consent. No matter which type of legitimate authority he's talking about, Weber emphasizes that it requires a certain level of consent, of wanting to follow the rule. Yeah? Power, on the other hand, is if you can get your will even against the interests of others, or the will of others. Yeah? So that's the first thing. And then he continues to argue that there are three sources of power. Yeah? Class, status, and party. And he links class, the concept of class, to the operation of the economic order, status to the operation of the social order, and then party, strangely, to the sphere of power, or power proper. Okay? These three are ideal types. The majority of the text talks about class and status, and then the last few paragraphs are about party. These are ideal types in that Weber is explaining to us separately what each of these are and how they work, but he's also showing us how in actual social reality, messy social reality, they operate together to produce a certain outcome. Yeah? So these are useful abstractions. Party operates at a different level of analysis than class and status. And we come to that in the very end. You should already see now one of the main differences between Weber and Marx. Remember that Marx really focused on this aspect. The power as really emerging from the economic sphere. Yeah? So the economic order is the basis of all power in society. But Weber argues, well, class is not the only issue, yeah? But there's also status and party. In addition, so as we get started now talking about class, you will see that even with class, even in the analysis of class, Weber offers us a different approach than Weber. Yeah? To some degree, Weber does agree with Marx, but he goes further than that. And there are two main differences which will emerge. And we start with the first one by simply seeing how Marx defined class and how Weber defined class. Okay. Marx, Weber. So for Marx, class is the relationship to the means of production. And Marx talked about two classes. The bourgeoisie, who owns the means of production, and the proletariat, who have nothing to say about their own labor power. Of course, you know, thinking back to the argument made in the Communist Manifesto, that Marx was not naive. Of course, he knew that there are other social classes. Remember his message to the middle classes, you better join us because you will fall eventually into the proletariat as well. So Marx was certainly aware that there are other classes, but strategically he focused his analysis on just the tensions and the contradictions between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Weber defines class slightly differently. Weber argues that class is about the possession of goods and the opportunity of income that structures life chances. Okay? That's a very important concept. Opportunity of income that has an effect on individuals' life chances. Okay. Let's read that part together. definition is on page 168, on the left-hand column, in part B. Weber writes, we may speak of a class when 1. A number of people have in common a specific causal component of their life chances, insofar as 2. This component is represented exclusively by economic interests in the possession of goods and opportunities for income, and 3. is represented under the conditions of the commodity or labor markets. This is class situation. And already here we want to pay attention to this term class situation. Okay, and we will come back to that issue in a little while. Why he's talking about class situation rather than class. So this sounds very similar to Marx. Okay, only that he's talking about possession of goods or property and opportunities of income. But Weber then continues to differentiate different class situations much further than Marx did in the Communist Manifesto. So let's look at that. So Marx is offering, Weber is offering a much more nuanced image of class.